Lockheed Martin, we see things differently because our mission means more than just protecting tomorrow. It's about propelling it forward. So we use the power of data to build powerful connections, utilize AI to bring our technology to the fight,
Crossfire contained,
and look for answers in places others would never think of. We see things from a different point of view, but our mission is always clear.
Ladies and gentlemen, the program will begin in about 1 minute. Please take your seats at this time. Again, the program is about to begin. Please take your seats. Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of AFCEA International and the U.S. Naval Institute, welcome to the final day of West 2025. Before we begin this morning's program, we have just a few administrative announcements. If you have not already done so, make sure to download the event app sponsored by Deloitte. We are providing an attendee Wi-Fi network. The SSID and the password are on the screens to the side of the stage and also located in the show guide. Visit USNI News and the AFCEA website throughout the week for news and summary reports. Additionally, recordings and presentations from the conference will be available on the West Conference website. We would like to recognize the many sponsoring companies who help make it possible to bring this important event to San Diego. We would particularly like to acknowledge Lockheed Martin for sponsoring this morning's keynote. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in a round of applause for Lockheed Martin and all of the West sponsors. At this time, please join me in welcoming to the stage Rear Admiral Ray Spicer, U.S. Navy retired, Chief Executive Officer and Publisher at the Naval Institute.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to day 3 of West. If you were not here for the SDMAC breakfast, I want to extend our collective thoughts and prayers to all those families and others impacted by the incident at Reagan National late last night. So just a quick moment of silence for that. I want to welcome members of the San Diego Military Advisory Council who are here with us this morning, led by George Shield, Chairman of the SDMAC Board, and Rear Admiral Retired David Boone, President and CEO. We appreciate and applaud all you do at SDMAC for our local servicemen and women and their families. It has been a fantastic couple of days here at West. Just to see the level of engagement between military, industry, allies, and partners on our theme, the future is now, are we advancing operational capabilities that pace the threat? That was never intended to be a yes or no question, but I think it's fair to say the question achieved the desired effect. Some themes we've heard over the last couple of days. We're laser focused on warfighting and our warfighters. We are making progress to improve our operational capabilities, and it continues at an accelerated pace. And it's very clear everyone's aligned on that. We're learning lessons and incorporating them more rapidly than ever before. You might hear some of that when Admiral Cooper gets on. But we also heard consensus that there's no time to waste. So, great progress, but much more work ahead of us. And it will take the entire ecosystem of military industry, academia, partners and allies, and more to get it done. We had over 12,000 register for West 2025, which is a new record, so how about a little round of applause for that? The most ever for this conference, and we thank you all for that. We tried to expand the exhibit space this year, and we believe it enabled some terrific interaction between government and industry, between industry and industry, B2B, and allies and partners. So huge thanks to all our panelists and speakers who not only showed up in a big way for this event, but also stuck around to walk the floor, which again, as you know, is huge. We can't have these events without industry support, and we thank Lockheed Martin for being the premier platinum partner of West 2025. So another round of applause for Lockheed, please. There's no shortage of hotspots around the globe right now, as you well know, particularly in areas where our Navy and Marine Corps have been engaged in combat operations. The Red Sea, in particular, has seen significant activity requiring our close attention and commitment for the last 15 months. A great example of fighting from inside the WES, as Admiral Kaler and others have mentioned this week. Vice Admiral Brad Cooper, who serves as the Deputy Director of U.S. Central Command, had very much hoped to join us here today. However, due to the intensity of current operations within CENTCOM, he was unable to travel. He has a very limited window of opportunity this morning, but has agreed to join us virtually, and you'll hear from him shortly. We will not have time at the end of his remarks for Q&A based on his schedule, but we are especially grateful to get some of his time to share his perspectives with us. And I know you will be impressed by what he has to say. I will quickly introduce him so we can get right to it. Admiral Cooper is a 1989 graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy and earned a master's degree in strategic intelligence from National Intelligence University. A career surface warfare officer, he served at sea in guided missile cruisers and destroyers, aircraft carriers, and amphibious assault ships. He's commanded 6 times in his career, most recently as the U.S. Fifth Fleet Commander during combat operations in the Red Sea. Among his jobs ashore, he served in the White House, on Capitol Hill, as the Navy Chief of Legislative Affairs, in Makalapa on Oahu as the aide to the Pacific Fleet Commander, and in Millington as the head Surface Warfare Officer Detailer, PERS 41. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm virtual welcome to Vice Admiral Brad Cooper. Admiral, I think you can hear us. You can give me a thumbs up.
I can definitely hear you, Ray. Maybe
Awesome.
someone give me a thumbs up in the audience.
You got a huge round of applause and
Okay.
standing ovation. Could you please be seated? Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Pinocchio, for the introduction on that. Just good morning to everyone, distinguished guests, colleagues, shipmates, shoremates, friends. I had about 10 minutes on the camera here watching before things started and picked out several hundred people who I owe a beer or root beer to. So great to reconnect with all of you, and a couple of you still owe me a beer or root beer, so that's not even, but it really is great to see everybody. And I am sorry I'm not there in person. It sounds like the week has been absolutely fantastic, and it really is a great honor to be here. Before I begin, I would like to thank the San Diego Military Advisory Council, everybody associated with WEST, the Naval Institute, and really all the organizers for bringing us together in providing such a great forum for collaboration and discussion. And I'd just like to give a special thanks to Ray Spicer for his lifetime of service to the Navy and now leading the way at USN. I view Ray as a national hero and just ask all of you to join me in a round of applause for Ray. So thanks so much. Okay, this year we're obviously celebrating the Navy's 250th anniversary. We're reflecting on the remarkable legacy of our naval forces in particular and our ability to meet challenges head on, adapt to change, and I'll talk a lot about that, and then prepare for the future. Now recognizing DoD's priority of protecting the border and fully acknowledging the pacing threat being China, today I'd just like to draw your attention to another theater, and that is the security environment in the Middle East, and specifically the maritime environment in the southern Red Sea. As we discuss the question at the core of the conference, are we advancing operational capabilities that pace the threat? I think the answer is a resounding yes, and I'll talk about that and what that looks like. In particular, at U.S. Central Command, my boss, General Eric Kurilla, has created what I would characterize as a culture of experimentation and an innovation mentality. And I'll talk about that in more detail, but it's deeply ingrained in the culture, and it's exciting to be a part of. The joint force here is absolutely evolving at a pace that allows us to stay ahead of an array of threats, whether in the Indo-Pacific or, as I'll highlight today, here in the Middle East. Today, I'd also like to share with you how we are addressing the rapidly changing threat environment in the Red Sea. In particular, how we're adapting to meet these challenges and why the experience we're gaining there today is preparing our warfighters for the future fight. So first, I'd just like to take a couple minutes and frame the overall security environment in the Middle East for those who aren't tracking it on a daily basis. I'd lead in with telling you the region is undergoing a tectonic shift. That's the accurate way of describing it. And the speed of change is quite staggering. And I'll take a look back for just a couple of months. Frankly, I could look back a couple of weeks. I'll extend it back into the fall time frame. Kind of around the Middle East, if I could. In Gaza, there's a ceasefire in place. We'll see where it leads. For right now, hostages are being released, and that's a good thing, including some today. Hezbollah, once considered to be one of the leading terrorist groups in the world, has had its leadership completely disintegrated, and I'll use that as a doctrinal term, and its military power dramatically reduced. In Syria, one of the most brutal regimes the world has seen in our lifetime has fallen. Time will tell what the future holds for the country, but I'll share with you on a light note in the course of what we would know as a 96-hour liberty chit. Israel effectively changed the balance of power with Syria, and it looks something like this. They neutralized the threat from Syria's entire surface-to-air missile force and integrated air defense system. In the course of doing this, they really ensured that air force and the naval force wouldn't fall in the wrong hands by eliminating the Air Force and sinking the Navy. That's certainly one way to do it. And then if I just think about a related topic, on April 13th and October 1st of last year, Iran attempted to strike Israel with hundreds of ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and one-way attack drones. This was a state-on-state attack that was unsuccessful. I'll talk more about that later on. But on the other hand, Israel's retaliatory strikes were highly successful, weakening Iran's air defense pretty significantly, as reported widely in the news. And I think, big picture, if I think about this, the Iranian influence arc, which has for decades stretched from Iran all the way through the Middle East and to Lebanon, has been dramatically interrupted. With that, break, let's zoom out for just a second. There still is one proxy that poses a significant threat. It's the terrorist group Ansar Allah. Most of you will know this group as the Houthis. And as you know, the Middle East is a key focal point for global maritime security, 3 strategic choke points. These are vital shipping lanes for the world economy. One of them is the Bab el-Mandeb Strait in the southern Red Sea, right near Houthi-controlled territory in Yemen. It's immediately adjacent. And over the past 15 months, as Ray mentioned, the Houthis have attacked international shipping, launching over 140 attacks. I don't know if that's particularly well known, on merchant vessels, and then targeting U.S. Navy warships more than 170 times with anti-ship ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and one-way attack drones. And in response, just on the drones themselves, the Joint Force has downed about 480 Houthi UAVs. It's a pretty significant and kinetic region. Related, as the Israelis have recently revealed, the Houthis have launched 40 medium-range ballistic missiles and about 300 long-range drones from Yemen up the entire Red Sea and into Israel. U.S.-Israeli joint combined team has downed most of these missiles and drones very successfully. So you're probably going to ask the question, how is this possible? And it's a pretty simple answer. The Houthis have been supported for more than a decade by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, who provide training, funding, and targeting support. The threats that we see from the Houthis, while geographically focused, certainly have global implications. 15% of global trade transits through the Red Sea. It's about $1.5 trillion a year. Finally, just in the last week or so, a significant event, the President of the United States designated the Houthis as an official foreign terrorist organization. So that'll have impacts going forward. Okay, so now let me just shift a little bit to adapting to the threats. In response to all those challenges that I outlined before, the United States and our partners have taken a very proactive series of decisive steps. And one example a year ago, if not longer, was the launch of Operation Prosperity Guardian. Early on, this is where the U.S. led an international effort to safeguard freedom of navigation to protect commercial shipping. This is ongoing today. It's a defensive operation, which was then complemented by strikes against Houthi-controlled territories in Yemen. The strikes were aimed at, and continue to be aimed at, degrading Houthi capabilities as they continue to terrorize shipping, because it's still going on, although we're in a short pause here for the last week or so. These strikes are deliberate in nature. They can be dynamic at times, and when called upon, I think they really demonstrate our ability to fight and win in a joint environment. And just overall, if I would just characterize it, I would tell you the Joint Force is doing an extraordinary job around the region every single day. And as you heard me describe, it is a highly kinetic environment. So let me just kind of pivot a little bit. I had the opportunity last year to embark on a guided missile destroyer in the Red Sea. And I thought I'd share with you just a glimpse of what the fight looks like from a personal perspective. This was about 9 weeks ago in November. I embarked on USS Stockdale in the Red Sea. The Stockdale was serving as a surface action group commander in company with USS Spruance. I've spoken different venues the last week, and I'll tell you the same thing. When you get a chance to ride in a group with Stockdale and Spruance, that is something that can't be missed and really special, just given the legacy of both of those amazing leaders. And our mission was to conduct a transit of the Bab el-Mandeb going from the Red Sea into the Gulf of Aden. I was there for about 4 or 5 days. And I wasn't there to command and control the operation. There's lots of people who can do that. I was there really to help inform a U.S. Central Command assessment and provide recommendations on the way ahead for U.S. military actions in the Red Sea kind of writ large. So a small team of us flew from Tampa to D.C. and then on to the Middle East. We got onto USS Stockdale. They were at sea and anchor detail right when we arrived, and we were immediately underway. As we headed south, and in the time, really particularly days preceding the transit, U.S. forces had already begun to essentially prep the battle space from the air. F-35s and F-18s from the aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln, Air Force F-15s, 16s, and B-52s, MQ-9, so it's busy. And as we're heading south, I would say that we were in for a fight, and everybody in the crew knew it. For some context, in the Stockdale's previous northbound transit, their surface action group had fired dozens of SM-2s and SM-6 in self-defense. I would say the mood among the crew is best characterized as anxious, but highly confident. This is a very well-trained crew, and they were just really confident. They weren't arrogant, but they were highly confident. And to me, it was something a little bit out of a novel as we were heading south, blank 2, zigzag course, lights out. It was a choke point transit, something that you would read about. After a few hours of quiet, I remember really vividly from my little perch in the Combat Information Center, or the TOC for my Army friends who may be there, with absolutely zero indications and warning. I mean, none. There's a ballistic missile launch that was detected out of Yemen. First there was 1, and then there was 2, and then there was 3, and then there was 4, all inbound the Stockdale. It was a complex, sophisticated, coordinated attack by the Houthis. Now, I could see from where I was standing there, the first of those 4 was going off axis, so they let it go. There was no threat there. But the other 3 were barreling in at Mach 5. And the ship did exactly what you'd expect, having been exquisitely well trained. There's maneuver, change of speed, and really flawlessly well choreographed internal communications. It was intense. And then seconds later, tick, 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 whoosh, missile away, an SM-6 from the Stockdale. Jolting for those who haven't experienced it. I suspect most there probably have not. The missile leaped outbound to intercept the inbound Iranian-made ballistic missile. And when you just think about this, it's a bullet hitting a bullet. There's about a 5,000 mile an hour closure speed on this. And then multiple missiles launching forward and aft. There was a close intercept. This is what happens in this environment. It's close enough that debris triggered an evolved Sea Sparrow launch. Very few people have seen that, but that happens really close. And then as the seconds are ticking by, more missiles leaping forward and aft, intercepting the Iranian-made ballistic missiles pretty far from the ship. And so to me, this was really American technology, the systems and training, all at our very best. And just thanks to so many of you there in the room who've taken all these pieces of this and brought them to maturity over the years. So then back in CIC, the radar systems controller, for those of you who've served on a cruiser or destroyer, the RSC was calling out missile intercept, assessing a kill on the third ballistic missile, then another assessed kill on the fourth one. So pretty intense time. I'll jump ahead to midnight 12. That happened right at midnight. So we're essentially 11 minutes later. This is all happening in a very short period of time. 50 miles to the east over land, we detected indications of a probable anti-ship cruise missile launch from Yemen. F-35s from the Abe Lincoln, who was more than 500 miles away, under E-2 control, were directed to prosecute that, took care of that issue. Then 1:30 in the morning, F-16s under Spruance control took out a Houthi land attack cruise missile. 7 minutes later, a complex suicide drone attack, F-16s also under the Spruance air control, took out the UAVs. And then at the same time, between midnight and 2 in the Gulf of Aden, the USS Frankie Peterson, O'Kane, and Michael Murphy protected Abe Lincoln, allowing Abe to launch strikes that I was describing earlier, hitting Houthi targets. In the course of that protection, they themselves downed 5 drones and an anti-ship cruise missile. Now, 1:49, out of nowhere, a very low, slow Houthi UAV crossed in front of the Stockdale. Watchstander acquired it. It was late detect. It was very low. I mean, it was really low. Kill order was given. I stepped over to just watch this, which I thought was a pretty low probability shot. And actually, to be frank, I thought there's no way they're going to hit it. A couple seconds later, the 5-inch gun is blasting away, and sure enough, they downed that thing. It just doesn't happen. We had about 15 seconds of 50 people erupt in cheers. For those of you who've done missile X's, it's a big high five when you shoot something down with a missile, but there's a lot of high fives when you shoot something down with a gun, kind of World War II style. So it was an exciting moment. There was a lot going on, but it just gives you a sense of this crew is really dialed in and paying attention. And then just a side note on some of the things I've talked about there. So the drones, of course, these aren't little commercial quadcopters with a hand grenade that you can sometimes see on a video. They are large, 15-foot wingspan, large warhead, highly lethal, built to inflict serious damage and used to attack ships, whether they're Navy or commercial, and also land targets, as we've seen and as I described against Israel hundreds of times. Okay, so let me just come back to the transit for a second. It's now about 0300. Another ballistic missile inbound to Stockdale was defeated. And that was about 3 hours of really high intensity operations and very kinetic. While that was all going on later that evening, a ballistic missile then launched from northeast Yemen toward Israel, targeting, hard to tell, either U.S. forces or critical infrastructure. And then USS Cole, stationed in the northern Red Sea, detected it. And in a teaming effort with the Israelis, the ballistic missile was destroyed. So I'll stop the story there and just zoom back out a bit. But I share the experience just to crystallize for you what it has looked like for the U.S. in the fight up to this point. There's not a fight every day. It happens most days. We're in a little bit of a pause here, seeing what's going on with Gaza, so we'll have to see what the future holds. And I think the key thing for the forces to continue to be ready. I'll also share with you, the details of, as I think about this, and as you think about this, just how well the Joint Force is doing, and in particular, how well our sailors are doing. It really is awe-inspiring. I'll also share with you that I told CNO that I thought the Stockdale was the best warfighting platform I had seen in my entire career. ever, including ones that I had commanded. So I think this gives you an example of the quality of people and the training and the systems all coming together in a very effective way. I also think it's another, I'd like to describe just another example of our ability to adapt quickly to emerging threats. As we have everything that's happening, in that intense operating area in the Red Sea, but also the joint force in general, the Navy in particular, is doing a great job executing complex air defense against the Iranians themselves over the last 9 months. Some of this is public, but I don't know that this story gets told quite enough, because there are a lot of people, including those of you there, who played a significant role in the success here. So just to go back on this, Iran attacked Israel state on state, first time ever, on April 13th, and then again on October 1st. Between the two attacks, Iran fired more than 300 ballistic missiles at Israel, along with about 200 drones and land attack cruise missiles. So it's a sizable series of attacks. They're pretty staggering numbers, yet thankfully, not a single Israeli was killed. It's a pretty remarkable feat. And I think the success was really the result of a joint, combined, partnered force with several other countries, where multiple U.S. destroyers in the Eastern Mediterranean quickly became highly integrated into an air defense umbrella over Israel. And it also included significant TAC air representation, from the joint force and from partners. It's especially worth noting that the Missile Defense Agency, MDA, has demonstrated an incredible ability to rapidly adapt and incorporate the lessons learned from these in the recent engagements and bring everything up to speed. I'll take, for example, the MDA's efforts I just mentioned during the Iranian missile attacks. On both of those days, both of them served as crucial learning opportunities, with MDA quickly taking what was learned and incorporating them at a tactical level for constant improvement. So I think the best I can tell from the briefs that we've gotten, there are hundreds of professionals across the Department of Defense and industry who've been working tirelessly behind the scenes to refine systems, adjust tactics, improve the integration, all very quickly. I think the rapid integration of feedback really underscores our this is the big our, collective ability to evolve quickly and respond to emerging threats, ensuring that we are always operationally a step ahead of what the adversary looks like. I'd also like to highlight the effectiveness of SMIDC. It's the Surface Navy's Warfighting Development Center, as many of you know, providing, you know that part. What you probably don't know is they provide 24/7 tactical reach back for the forward deployed force. Now under the sterling command of Admiral Wilson Marks. I think I saw John Wade in the audience, American superhero, who really got this started after relieving the now Vice CNO Jim Kilby. This tactical reach back, if you're somewhere around my age or senior, is something we didn't have growing up, but has been a game changer in creating tactical advantage at sea. So if I just think about the embark on the Stockdale alone, I can think of no less than 3 times in the 6 to 9 hours before the ship went into harm's way, where they were able to leverage tactical SMEs back at SMIDC headquarters there locally to make adjustments on radar, tactics, TTP. That would have been unimaginable just a few years ago. So really great job to everyone who's contributing to that. Okay, break. Let me just pivot and talk to you about innovation a little bit in collaboration with industry. I think this has been a critical enabler for our success. General Kurilla has really set the conditions for the CENTCOM AOR to be a sandbox for experimentation. And over these last couple of years, it's manifested in many ways with the establishment of Red Sands exercise series. I'll talk about that. Experimentation task forces in every domain. This is Task Force 39 for the Army, Task Force 99 for the Air Force, Task Force 59 for the Navy, as well as our integration of a joint all-domain command and control, or JADC2 tools. So a little bit about Red Sands, a great example of operational experimentation in partnership with industry. Dozens of commercial counter-UAS systems come out to demonstrate their capabilities in theater. We've done this several times. All the services have been fantastic. The Army in particular has been great at what they characterize as transforming in contact. And the philosophy is, if it works, they accelerate the fielding. If it doesn't work, cut it and move on to the next thing. Let them work to the side till they get to a point of being maturity and being effective in the theater that we get employed in. Similarly, while I can't really talk about the specifics, we've seen the same type of rapid iterating with advances in munitions. I'm sure someday the stories of these will come out, but they're really evolving right now, but helping create tactical and operational advantage. I think the commercial partner integration with operations is really helping to reshape the way we fight, and it's doing it at pace with a threat. So my kudos to everybody involved in this. I mentioned we have established innovation task forces in every domain. In my own personal experience, we created Task Force 59 to spearhead the use of robotic, autonomous systems and artificial intelligence into maritime operations in the Middle East. 59's work, I think, is an example of how we are really rapidly innovating fleet operations and integrating, and ultimately the work helps to inform the future hybrid fleet that I think many of you know the CNO has talked about. Over time, we've also used these technologies to spot and action Iranian and Chinese malign activity, such as smuggling and sanction evading, among other efforts. So it's working. The technologies also extend our presence and operational capabilities, importantly without putting personnel at risk, which is an obvious advantage. Another prime example of rapid innovation of CENTCOM operations is our integration of a JADC2 tool into the headquarters operations, which has been nothing short of a game changer. If you're involved in this, you'll know who you are. It's been absolutely fantastic. This powerful tool has been really indispensable for maintaining a real-time and comprehensive picture of the battle space. It's called MAVEN. It takes data from multiple assets and sensors, massive fusion effort into a single pane of glass. And I'm really proud to say that the integration has been really comprehensive from the headquarters down to the components, the component ops centers, and in many cases down to tactical units. The JADC2 tool that we've used has really supercharged domain awareness and the speed of decision making. And I can assure you, we use this thing every day, if not every hour of every day, when tactical intensity increases on decision making. We also have embedded industry reps here to address changing needs as they arise, and we're constantly integrating. So I think this has been a real win. And the integration, I think, is critical for ultimately improving our joint warfighting ecosystem. So that's been fantastic. So I'd say if you're there representing any portion of industry today, thank you. The innovation can only, and from my perspective, thrive through collaboration. And without the collaboration with industry daily, side by side and at the edge, we just wouldn't be where we are today here. So thanks very much. I have an ask of you, and that is stay plugged in. While I think we are making progress, we absolutely need to move faster. We absolutely have to move faster. If there's one thing you remember from an industry perspective on this, let it be speed. Speed is a lever, and at the warfighting edge, we need speed, and we need you to move faster. So for any of you out there where you see opportunities, please engage with us. If it increases our lethality, readiness, and warfighting effectiveness, I can tell you this, we are all in. So thanks in advance for that. And then I'll conclude with just a couple of comments. As we look toward the future, the final takeaway from our observations and our operations overall in Central Command AOR, I want to leave you with a couple of things. The technology, the innovation, and strategic partnerships are absolutely critical enablers. But at the end of the day, it's young men and women who are carrying out these missions that matter most. We should always remember that people are the warfighters and people do the warfighting. The experience I think that we're building right now in the region is unlike anything that any Navy around the world or the Joint Force has been developing. Our sailors are gaining unparalleled experience. And then from my perspective, nirvana would be to see these young sailors take that invaluable experience with them to their assignments in the Indo-Pacific as they move their own careers forward. It'd be an indispensable way of taking lessons learned today and experience and translating it into the future fight. Because as I think you all know, in the end, it's our people that continue to really drive us forward. And so with that, again, I'm sorry I'm going to need to zip here, but I want to thank everyone for what you're doing. If you are part of a weapon or system part of the industry, mechanical, electrical, you name it, I just want to, at a personal level, say thank you on behalf of the thousands of men and women that you have protected. And thank you from the bottom of my heart for all you're doing for Central Command, unbiased, the great U.S. Navy operating forward. And I wish you all the best. I look forward to seeing many of you in travels in the future. Take good care, and thanks so much.
Yeah, well, Cooper, thanks so much for taking some time for us. We know your time's precious. We appreciate and applaud everything you're doing there in CENTCOM. So thank you on behalf of this crowd that's assembled. And it is a huge crowd, and we appreciate your time so much. As a small token of our appreciation on behalf of AFCEA International and the U.S. Naval Institute, we present you with a U.S. Naval Institute press book, The Neptune Factor, by Nick Lambert. So we'll put it in the mail to you, sir. Thanks again. Appreciate your time with us. And for everyone here in the crowd, it's day 3. It's the last day. Enjoy day 3. And thanks again for all your great support.
Ladies and gentlemen, we now move into a networking break in the exhibit areas, upstairs and downstairs, sponsored by Systems Planning Analysis. There's still a lot to experience at West on the final day. Please make sure to visit the various stages throughout the exhibit halls and take advantage of the great discussions. Consult the app for session details. Enjoy the rest of the conference. And we look forward to seeing you right back here at the San Diego Convention Center for West 2026, February 10 to 12. Thank you very much.